They came at dusk, 5 men on roaring bikes, kicking up dust as they circled the lonely ranch like wolves scenting an easy kill. Everyone in the county knew the rancher lived alone, a quiet outsider, a man who didn't bother anyone. But the moment the gang drew closer to his front door, their boots stopped cold. There, carved deep into the wood, was a symbol no one expected. The Cherokee warrior mark. And suddenly, the men who feared nothing, feared him. The sun was dipping low behind the hills when Elijah Kane felt the first warning ripple in the air. The ranch was usually quiet at this hour, just the rustle of dry grass and the slow snorting of the horses settling in for the night. But something shifted, a vibration that didn't belong to nature. Elijah paused with the hammer still in his hand, listening. Then he heard it. Engines. Several of them. Deep, uneven growls, growing louder, kicking up the kind of dust that didn't come from friendly visitors. He turned toward the road, jaw tightening as the silhouettes of motorcycles emerged over the ridge. 5 riders. They didn't take the curve gently or respectfully. They thundered in like a pack of wolves marking their territory, circling the edge of the ranch with predatory intent. Elijah didn't move. He stood by the barn, one hand resting on the wooden frame, every sense alert but his expression unreadable. The riders slowed as they approached the porch. Their leader cut his engine last, removing his helmet with a smirk that spoke of a man used to taking what he wanted. He had a scar through one eyebrow, and when he ran his tongue across his teeth, Elijah could tell he enjoyed intimidation the way some men enjoyed good whiskey. The others followed behind him, stamping their boots on Elijah's land as if testing how much disrespect they could get away with. Elijah watched silently. He didn't bother to introduce himself. Men like this came with intention, loud, messy intention, and anything he said too early would only feed their confidence. "We're looking for someone," the leader finally said, voice dripping with the kind of self-assured menace that came from years of no one standing up to him. "A man who thinks he can disappear out here." Kane. Elijah Kane. Elijah's eyes didn't flicker. His heartbeat stayed steady. But his silence made the gang restless. One of the bikers nudged a boot against a flower pot Elijah's late mother had carved years ago, kicking it aside just to watch it tumble. Another spat in the dust, scanning the ranch house like it was prey waiting to be opened. "Place ain't guarded," one muttered. "Looks like it'll fold easy." The leader grinned. "We'll drag him out. Then we'll teach him what happens when you run from Iron Ridge." They walked toward the porch. The boards creaked under their weight. Elijah didn't stop them, not yet. He stood still, letting them show their ignorance a moment longer. The youngest of the group reached out first, palm slapping against Elijah's front door as he prepared to force it open. Then his hand stopped. The man leaned closer, squinting. "Boss, wait. You see that?" The leader frowned and stepped forward. His eyes widened by a fraction, enough to slice through his bravado. Carved into the wood, deep, deliberate, unmistakable, was the Cherokee warrior mark. The symbol of a bloodline trained in endurance, strategy, and protection. A symbol that meant danger to anyone who understood. Silence draped over the porch like a warning. One biker swallowed hard. "No way, not him. We're not supposed to hit a marked house." For the first time since they arrived, fear slipped into their voices. And Elijah Kane finally pushed off the barn frame and walked toward them, boots steady, gaze colder than the coming night. "You boys," he said softly, "picked the wrong door." Elijah's quiet words hit the gang harder than any shout could have. The leader straightened, masking his momentary hesitation with a forced smirk. "Cherokee mark or not," he growled, "we didn't ride all this way to turn back now." His men shifted uncomfortably, glancing between the symbol on the door and Elijah's steady approach. The rancher stopped a few feet from them, the dying sunlight casting long shadows across the porch. His eyes, dark, calm, unreadable, met the leader's without blinking. That mark isn't decoration, Elijah said. It's a warning. One your people should have learned to respect. A biker with a jagged beard stepped forward, trying to reclaim the sense of dominance the group had lost. We don't care about some old tribal scratch. You should, Elijah cut in. Something in his tone, quiet but edged like a blade, made the man stop mid-sentence. The leader's smirk faltered. We know what the symbol means, he muttered. A warrior bloodline. Protection rights. But that doesn't scare me. Elijah took one more step. Then you don't understand it. The air shifted. The horses in the barn began murmuring, sensing the tension. The wind itself seemed to hush, as if the land was listening to what might come next. The youngest biker, barely 20, nervous eyes darting, leaned toward the leader. Boss, maybe we should. Shut it, the leader snapped. But Elijah had already noticed the fear in the young man's voice. You don't want this, Elijah told him gently, surprising everyone. Go home. There's nothing for you here. The kid swallowed. His hand trembled on the handle of his knife. He wasn't built for this kind of fight, and Elijah knew it. The leader barked a laugh. Trying to scare us off. You think that mark makes you untouchable? No, Elijah said, voice steady. My actions do. Before the leader could respond, Elijah turned his gaze toward the biker still touching the door. Take your hand off it. The man pulled back instantly, as if the carved symbol had burned him. Elijah stepped onto the porch, placing himself directly between the gang and the door. You want Cain? Elijah said. You're looking at him. Another ripple of fear went through the group. They had expected a frail recluse, an easy target, not a warrior who looked carved from the same earth he stood on. The leader clenched his jaw. Pride battled against survival in his expression. We were told, he said through gritted teeth, that you crossed someone powerful. Someone who wants you brought back. Elijah's jaw tightened. The past Elijah had tried so hard to bury was clawing its way back into the present. I walked away from a life that should have stayed dead, he answered. Tell whoever sent you that. That's not how this works, the leader said. He reached under his jacket. Elijah moved before anyone registered the blur,